Hello, everyone, and welcome to the official Colts Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Gorman, joined by JJ Stankevitz and Larra Overton. Hey, guys, we got a lot going on today, okay? It is game week. I just want the excitement level because we've been doing this podcast for a long time now, and I'm talking when there's snow on the ground. We're talking about expectations, about 2024.
Now it's time to find out.
The upcoming draft, et cetera, et cetera. JJ, where are your nerves? Where are you at this week? With the Houston Texans coming into town, and it's finally for real.
Buzzing.
Yeah.
We're buzzing this week.
Buzzing, like buzzing, like
no.
Drinking this week?
No. Buzzing is I'm like bopping around the building.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. No. We're in season mode now, Jeffrey. This is so exciting that the Colts open the season with this game. You get that immediate shot at Houston again. And I had this thought this morning as I was kind of thinking about how I was going to do my game preview on Colts.com. And it's going to be something along the lines of, since the moment CJ Stroud and the Texans walked off the field at Lucas Oil Stadium as division champs, the Colts and Texans off seasons have been very different. The Texans have been defined by big splashes, right? Stephon Diggs, Danielle Hunter, those type of guys. The Colts have been defined by continuity. They re-signed pretty much all their own and added a couple of guys. But the biggest difference on the field on Sunday will not be Stephon Diggs or Danielle Hunter. It will be Anthony Richardson, who did not play in that game last year. So that is where my brain kind of goes. It's like, all right, the Texans made all these moves and everyone's really excited about what they can do. The Colts are going to have the biggest single-player difference on the field from the end of 2023 to the start of 2024.
Yeah, and all eyes are on AR. I mean, how excited are we for this?
Well, I mean, so excited. And the opportunity to do it at home, too, right? Like, you look at this matchup and you're like, we're coming out of the gates, like, with an electric matchup within the division. And you just think about getting this at home versus starting out with Houston on the road, which is something we've done a couple years in a row. We'd had to go to Houston first before getting them at home for that second division game. Or second game against them within the division. And that's huge. To me, that's massive. When you look back to, it's been since 2013 that the Colts won an opener.
Ugh.
How crazy is that?
It doesn't sound right. I mean,
it doesn't. Like, this is the time to, like, re-own that, reclaim that. And
don't forget, I'm sorry to interrupt, Jim Irsay has said this year in and year out, and I know for a fact, he's pissed off when this team doesn't, when they don't open the way they should at home. I mean, this has been for a decade now that it goes. The importance of getting this first one, and then obviously with all the bells and whistles of the Houston Texans coming back into town. But I'm saying it's from the top bottom. These are so important to set the tone of this season.
And I had Shane Steichen and Michael Pittman in for Colts 360 this week, so got to do those interviews earlier in the week. And I asked Shane, I said, we've had so much conversation all offseason about continuity, or, re-signing your own, all of that. But how is this team, what is different about this team? There's got to be something. And it's not just, Raekwon Davis and Laiatu and Joe Flacco, right? Like, what is different about this collective group? He said there's such a difference in the team chemistry. And now it's time for that to come to fruition. And you get the sense that everything is working in the favor of Colts to have a stronger start to the season than what we have seen in years past because of not only the continuity, but because of the position that you have put yourself in, where these guys are in terms of the dynamic within offense, defense, all of that. And I asked both Shane and Pitt, like, when the schedule came out, and you have that still in the back of your mind, like, that loss happened in January, schedule comes out in May. And Shane said flat out excitement was his reaction. Yes, we get this one. Like, we get this one. We have an opportunity to, not rectify last season, but, you get a chance now to go right back in to making a somewhat, I think it would be a statement, right, for the Colts. And Pitt said, like, that loss is something he has thought about a whole lot. So in terms of, like, Houston has kind of won the offseason conversation. A lot of people are picking them to be the AFC champs. They're riding high, right, as they should. The Colts are riding in hungry and with something to prove.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. Want to welcome all of our Colts Audio Network listeners and our YouTube channel viewers right here. Again, Larra, Overton, JJ Stankevitz. I'm Jeffrey Gorman. We've got the Houston preview for you, and it's coming up on Thursday. This one is going to be centered on the big overall outlook of the 2024 season. And we're starting, obviously, with Anthony Richardson, and health is everything. JJ, what's a stat line look like for a healthy Anthony Richardson and a successful Colts offense this year?
So I think the thing we need to remember here is that I think the stat line is actually really valid here, because you're going to have some games where it's like, oh my gosh, look at what he did out there. And then you're going to have other games where it's like, he went 11-20, but the Colts might win the game that he goes 11-20 and lose the game where he throws for 350. Like, this is going to be an evolving process with him. There are going to be games that maybe frustrate you, and then there are going to be games that you are like, this guy's going to win MVP someday. How does he even that out throughout the season, I think, is a really interesting starting point here. And look, I mean, completion percentage, people are going to focus on that, right? If he has a completion percentage under 60%, so you're going to hear, well, he's not accurate. That is okay, actually. Here's the thing that I'm looking for. Like, the number one stat I'm going to look for on Anthony Richardson this year is his sacks. How often is he getting sacked? Because the difference in, say he's completing 59% of his passes, which I think he can be higher than that, certainly. But let's just say for this, he's at 59%. But he is top 3 in the NFL in not taking sacks. You are getting more positive plays out of your quarterback who isn't getting sacked than you are out of a quarterback who's completing 67% of his passes but is getting sacked all the time. That sack avoidance is going to bring up the number of plays that the Colts win on. So that's what I'm going to look at first.
Interesting.
With him.
Interesting. Larra, I want to ask you.
And he by the way, he's really good at avoiding sacks.
Yeah, really good. So with that being said,
And tough to bring down, right?
what does that look like, Larra, in your eyes? Like just what JJ said, which is a great stat, by the way, to bring that up. That when you're talking about the sacks, he's not the type of player that's going to take a sack. He's going to go. What does he look like this year offensively with his legs? How many carries do you think?
It's going to be explosive. I mean, it's just, I go back to like training camp when Shane was asked about Anthony's running ability, and he's like, would you, you're not going to limit Steph Curry from shooting threes, right? Like, it just, come on. Like, I know that everyone wants him to play smart, and there's been a lot of conversation about, do you have to change his playing style? But like, one, that's an asset that he has. He considers his running ability to be what he calls his superpower. And if you watch the Behind the Colts with Anthony Richardson, he says, if people don't know by now, running and jumping, I love to do that. Like, you want your quarterback out there having fun. I mean, how much does it inject into not just the offense, but into this entire team when you have seen in the past, JT break out for those huge runs. And you think about when he goes, 40 yards down the field in the end zone, or these, explosive runs, which is a word we have heard Shane reiterate in terms of describing this offense. Like,
oh, now Shane's saying explosive runs and I'm not getting roasted for it on here? Great, thanks.
Right. Well, he didn't say explosive runs. He just said explosiveness within the offense. But yeah, I'm all for it, because I think what you're going to see too is he's going to be able to run and elude trouble when he sees contact coming his way.
So here's where I'm at with Anthony and the running stuff. So last year he only averaged 6.3 rush attempts per game, which is a decent amount. But Jalen Hurts in 2021, with Shane Steichen as his offensive coordinator, was at 9.3.
Were those, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Just are those designed? Or is that coming off of, hey, everyone's covered, and I'm going to go get 3 yards on the outside?
Bit of both, right?
A lot, it's going to be probably more designed.
Okay, good.
Which, is not necessarily like you're running QB power where the only thing he's doing on the play is running. You probably have a lot of read option stuff in there where, you're reading, the end or the linebacker and pulling it and taking it yourself, that type of stuff. But in 2022, he was at 11 rush attempts per game. And the Eagles he kind of built into that, right? In the offense that, hey, this is an identity, this is a big part of our identity as an offense, is Hurts running the football. Anthony last year didn't have a chance to do that because he got hurt 4 games into his season. So I think you might see Richardson be a lot closer to where Hurts was in 2021 at about, that's an increase of 3 rushing attempts per game. That's significant.
Sure.
That's 51 more rushing attempts in an entire 17-game season. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But like Larra said, Shane Steichen is not shy about if we need to run the football with Anthony, we will do it. And you can't coach scared and you can't play scared. So you may say, we got hurt last year. Do we need to limit it? But if you start playing scared, you lose what makes Anthony Richardson such an explosive weapon in your offense.
And look at what, I mean, we've talked about this game a whole lot. I mean, and I'm glad we have another game so we can stop talking about this game. But like the Rams game, right? Like I just went back to look. I mean, looking at yards right there, like he had 56 rushing yards in that game. He broke off for like that big one, if you remember specifically, and that was a week after he'd been inactive and he had a game like that. That was, I mean, brought you out of, a 26-0 halftime deficit, took it into overtime. Like,
I want to talk about that Rams game because I think that I've written about this a little bit. That game is so indicative, I think, of what like you might see out of Anthony Richardson. So the Colts in that game, Larra, you're right. They got down big early.
26-0, right?
I think it was 23-0.
Okay.
So you got down big, and then Richardson in the second half kind of took it over. As I'm kind of fumbling around here trying to find the first half summary
sorry, I
of
should have given you a heads up. I was like, light bulb went off.
Anthony Richardson, by the way, in the first half of that game, all 56 of his rushing yards came in the first half, while the Colts were losing, and then he turned it on as a passer. But he was 4 of 7 for 47 yards in the first half. Like, it wasn't good. The Colts couldn't otherwise run the ball. Zach Moss was 5 of 10, 5 carries for 10 yards in that first half. They weren't really moving the ball. 30 of Richardson's 47 yards came on that one insane pass to Josh Downs over the middle. And then Richardson in the second half, he turned it on, and you saw the playmaking. You saw him get outside the pocket. You might have games like this. You might have months like this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Richardson's playmaking ability gives you a chance to win every single football game until the clock is at 0.
I also think it's going to open up opportunities because in those situations in which we saw him have that production, like you didn't have Jonathan, right? Or like, so you think about, you account for that. The fact that teams have to game plan for Jonathan Taylor is going to create opportunities for Anthony Richardson because you kind of have to like hedge your bets a little bit, right, on how you're attacking both of those guys from a run standpoint.
Well, Zaire Franklin told me during the preseason, he's like, with those guys, you have to guess. And sometimes you're going to guess wrong. And when you guess wrong, they're gone. 28 or 5 is gone. But you can't, you have to guess because you can't cheat on one or the other. So it's like that unknown of that backfield to me is one of the biggest threats this Colts team has.
Are you guys expecting, 5th overall start in the NFL? That's the bottom line for this kid. 5th overall start. Are you expecting a slow start? And I don't mean that negatively, but are we going to look over the course of 18 weeks and see the slow, steady climb of him either through the air or with his legs?
I think when you think about just the leaps that he took in the early part of last season, I think that you are going to see, you're going to see a different player in the latter quarter of the season versus what you do. You're going to see all of the same things. He's just going to do it with more consistency, I think, with more and more repetitions. That's what we've heard, right? He just needs reps, just needs the opportunity. And something I talked to, Pitt about in terms of where he's seen the growth, because Pitt said something interesting to me back in camp when we were talking about Anthony, and he said, I think that there is like a path for quarterback success in the league, and it works to the advantage of a lot of young quarterbacks to sit for a year. Now, a lot of times it's just that they aren't named the starter and they have to sit behind a veteran. It was a little bit different for Anthony, right? Started the season and then due to injury was watching Gardner Minshew. But Pitt was telling me just how much development he has seen in Anthony, just the quick processing. And that's something that you can't replicate in terms of practice situations. You've got to do that in games. Your adaptability with how defensive coordinators are going to start to, read you and things you can't script in those practice type of situations. So I think just purely based on experience alone, it's going to be a steady climb, and you're going to have a little bit of some ups. That's any young player in this league. But I think when you look at the collective performance, you are going to see immense growth in kind of first to second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Season.
I totally agree because you're going to see the Colts develop an identity on offense that, last year the identity on offense became we're going to be the best RPO team in the NFL, and we're just going to pepper RPOs over and over and over and over again because that's what works. This year, it could be something completely different. This could be we are going to be a downfield passing attack this year with a run game that's explosive. It could be another season of RPOs. It's just juiced up because you have Richardson there and you have Taylor next to him. It could be a team where we're going to run the ball and we're going to be, Shane's mentality of pass to score, run to win. Maybe it becomes run to score, run to win. But we don't know yet. And I'm so fascinated how Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen grow into the season together because we haven't seen it. And it can go so many different directions based on Richardson's ability to do so much as a quarterback.
All right, Larra, we're going to find out where we're getting better right now at this overall look for the 2024 season. I want to start with you defensively, and we have to start with, I'm guessing, with Laiatu Latu and what he brings to this. I say that with reservation because I know he's such an exciting player, but boy, oh boy, we were excited last year, J.J. Larra. 51 sacks from this defense, setting a club record. Wow, getting after it. And now you bring this rolling ball of butcher knives in here into this defense with Latu. Obviously, let's start there, how they're going to get better.
Oh, I mean, I think that it's a guy who you kind of shoot out of a cannon, right? Like with how ready he is to make an impact on this. And that's something, any first round pick you kind of expect to be an immediate contributor. But I believe that his skill set already gives you something different, right, within this defensive front. And then you look at where he's just developed, even in the time that he has been here in the building. And he's been so good about immediately, acting like a rookie, okay? Not playing like a rookie, acting like a rookie in terms of coming in. Okay, what is DeForest Buckner doing to be as consistent as he's been able to be? What notes am I taking from Defo? Okay, Kwity Paye. Actually, I saw these guys going in to take yoga this morning together. Kwity Paye, Dio Dengbo, Laiatu Latu, going spending their off day doing some yoga. We talked extensively about how rigorous Quity's offseason program is. He's taking notes from what Quity's doing. He has been doing that the entire time he got in the building. He's like, I want to learn from everyone, and he has such a great group to learn from. And every single guy in that D-line group talks about that. The questions that he asks, the eagerness that he has to learn and to just kind of be a contributor. I think that he sees this as, I want to be the best player that I can, but I want to be the best player for this team. It's not about how many sacks can I have. I mean, sure, in some way, but it's more so, how am I being the best asset to this group in its entirety, more so than I need to come out with a specific number in mind. How are we all making each other better? And he's been so impressive so far. And I think it's going to be really interesting in terms of how you see offenses having to account for him as he continues to be more and more of a threat up front.
I love putting you on the spot. Is he a double-digit guy this year?
All right, here you go. There have only been 5 double-digit sack getters as rookies in the last 10 seasons. It's been, let's see, let me find my list here. It is Josh Hines-Allen, Joey Bosa, Bradley Chubb, Max Crosby, Micah Parsons. Ooh. 2 of those 5 guys won Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think if Laiatu Latu gets to 10 sacks, he wins Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Okay, good
because
call.
think about this. Latu is the first defensive player drafted this year. In previous years, you could have 10 sacks, but you get overshadowed by Sauce Gardner, a corner who has an insane season. There isn't that other guy in this class with the amount of hype that Latu has. And awards are so narrative based, right? Maybe a Terrion Arnold comes out as a great year. Quinyon Mitchell for Philly or something like that as a cornerback. But I think Latu, if he gets there, people are going to notice. And he's got a shot to do it based on how NFL ready he is right now.
Hey, we saw 8.5 sacks last year out of Kwity Paye. Do we have a double-digit – wait a minute. Do we have a two-headed monster double-digit sack?
I want to stop talking about sacks, though. Okay, here's we've talked about pressure rate. So I wrote this last week, and I'm going to test to see if you read 10 Colts things.
Okay.
How many teams with a bottom 11 pressure rate made the playoffs in 2023?
How many teams with a bottom 11 pressure rate made the playoffs? 2.
0.
Damn.
Yeah.
You didn't go to me on that. I thought you were
well, because I figured you read it. I was testing Jeffrey.
No, I read it in the library.
That's fine. I know. Yeah, it was long. It was a long thing. But that really stuck out to me. That oh man, I mean, and by the way, of the top 12 teams in pressure rate last year, 11 made the playoffs.
Okay, let's go. Let's just pressure that quarterback, LO. We're going to be good.
So that's part of me for this week one. Yes, you want your offense to be productive. You got to protect the football, right? You want to get JT going. You want the accuracy to be up, all of that. You want to avoid the takeaways. But, I think one of the underscored critical elements of this game is affecting CJ Stroud early. I think we've talked so much about the offense, and rightfully so, but I think that this defensive front is going to be put to the test early on, and that is going to be, if they can impact CJ early in this game, that to me is one of the probably top 3 critical factors in that victory, period.
By the way, the other thing about pressure rate, because in that game against the Texans, the Colts did not get enough pressure on C.J. Stroud late in the game. There were too many instances where it was 3rd down and they couldn't get pressure on him, and he was able to make a play that helped Houston squeak out that win. The Colts last year in the 4th quarter and overtime, they had the 4th lowest pressure rate in the NFL, even though they had 20 sacks, which was 2nd most in the league.
Interesting.
No teams with the bottom 15 pressure rate in the 4th quarter or overtime made the postseason. So if you're going to get pressure, you better be getting it late.
They're certainly not garbage sacks, but
no. It wasn't like they were getting a bunch of garbage time sacks.
Right.
But it was when they got pressure, they were hitting home. That's great. But you got to consistently get it, because a 3rd and 7 play where C.J. Stroud has a clean pocket, he's got a really good chance of picking up that 1st down. But a 3rd and 7 play where he's got someone in his face immediately and he can't go through his progressions, you got a shot there to get off the field.
Guys, we are looking at the 2024 outlook of a season. Again, we've got the preview with the Texans coming up on Thursday's official Colts podcast. I want to go to the defensive backfield. We're spitting all over the place today, but overall, 2024, 17 games. Sammy Womack comes in after some cuts in San Francisco. Defensive backfield. Stay there for a minute. What's the outlook for the defensive backfields, LO?
They're going to be challenged early on, and one of the best assets for them is the defensive front. You have to have those guys up front. That works in tandem, right? When you're getting pressure up there, gives the guys on the back end time to get in position, all of that, right? So I think that you're going to be stressed. That defensive backfield is going to be stretched early on, and they're going to try to test you. They're going to come at you hard early, in this game. When you're just talking about week 1 specifically, I'm not going, because I think things can change.
We can go to week 2 if you want to. Jeez,
just the first 3 games of this season. But I'm excited for Juju Brents to have this opportunity, excited for Jalen Jones and, the guys that are within that group. I think that there is a lot on the shoulders of Kenny Moore being the leader within that group to bring those, help bring those safeties along, right? Julian Blackmon, that's on you to make sure that you have those guys back there leveling up to what the expectation has to be, because Chris Ballard is showing a lot of confidence in that group to develop and to show up, right? He didn't go out when people speculated that they would make a ton of offseason moves. Yes, you signed Womack. That was one. But you didn't, make a big swing on, somebody who was out there in free agency. So you're betting on your own a little bit. And these guys should feel great about that. But, you've got to reciprocate that and let it show on the field.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right that they're going to be tested early on. Because, think about this. If you're going into early in the season and you are game planning for the Colts, you're probably not. You're always game planning for perceived weaknesses, right? And you're not looking at that defensive line as a perceived weakness,
or the linebackers.
You're not looking at the linebackers as a perceived weakness. So those guys are going to be challenged right off the gate by Houston, which, by the way, has 3 really, really good wide receivers. Ooh. I mean, and you're looking at Nico Collins as your X. If he's going up against Juju Brents quite a bit in this game, Juju's got to come to play. You're looking at Tank Dell playing a lot on. Tank Dell's a great outside receiver. I think people just sort of think
coming off an injury,
right? Coming off an injury, but he's maybe small, undersized. He's kind of like T.Y. Hilton type size. What he can do on the outside, and then by the way, they got Stephon Diggs now too, who can play in the slot, who can play outside, he can play everywhere. It's gonna be a challenge for those guys. But if you can come out of this game right off the bat, I think those guys, if we get to the end of this game against Houston and those guys all competed and they had their moments and they played, generally you come out feeling like they played well, that can be such a springboard of confidence for those guys to say, hey, we did it. Because they've done it in the past. We've seen Juju Brents have a great game against the Las Vegas Raiders. We've seen Jalen Jones have his moments. You got to do it consistently, but I think starting strong for these guys is so important.
I'm
for
even
them over
thinking
the course
about
of the season.
Brent's in Baltimore last year.
Right off the bat, he had a great game.
I'm am putting this out there. I'm going to say I think Juju Brents comes up with a takeaway week 1 against Houston.
Nice, good call.
I just
put that out there. So
I'm,
I love putting
I'm
that
manifesting
stuff out there.
it. Yeah.
But I mean, look, I think, Larra, the way that you put that was perfect. Of like, Chris Ballard has shown his faith. The Colts have shown their faith in these guys. They need to go reward it.
Rolling them out
and
let
because
them go,
this is your opportunity. This is everyone's opportunity in that defensive backfield, whether it's Juju Brents, Jalen Jones, Nick Cross. This is your shot to cement your spot in the NFL of who you're going to be as a player, how long you're going to play. This is a great opportunity for all of them. They've shown their flashes of talent. This isn't blind faith that the Colts have in these guys. They've shown their moments. Now it's time to go earn it.
All right,
Let's see.
let's talk about some role players. Some guys, obviously the stars are all there, but I want to talk about some role players. The most important guys, maybe not the biggest stars, sometimes aren't the biggest role players, but overall, looking at this 2024 season, who do you like, LO, that you're keeping your eye on?
So who do we like or who is most important?
Well,
Most important role players,
Backup running backs. What are you doing behind Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah.
I like it.
Look at how critical Zach Moss's play was last year. Look at who you had week 1 last year without Jonathan Taylor out there on the field. To me, what are you doing behind JT to reinforce your ability, your availability, the versatility of this run game with who is behind him?
I mean, you need to
and Trey Sermon gave you good play last year.
He did.
Like, you're excited for what he brings. There's, with Goodson. Tyler Goodson had a great preseason. How does that translate over? How are you utilizing him? To me, that's what it is because, Jonathan, and what he's able to do. You know what he's going to give you when he's on the field, but you also have to give yourself somewhere to go in the instances when he is not out there taking snaps.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Taylor in 2021 had 332 rushing attempts. That led the NFL. That's a high number. That is putting a lot on your running back. Now, Anthony Richardson can take some of that off of him, but you're going to have snaps where you're going to need Trey Sermon on the field. You're going to have snaps where you need Tyler Goodson on the field. Maybe Evan Hull gets brought up from the practice squad. You're going to need those guys because it's hard to expect a running back in the NFL to carry over 300 times in a season. It's hard. So you're going to have carries. And I mean, look, if JT does have to miss a game, who steps in there? I totally
by committee maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it could be by committee, but I think you'd like to have what you had in Zach Moss last year. Obviously, Zach Moss got a great opportunity in Cincy, so he's not back. But that sort of comfort of, hey, look, we want to have JT out there for all 17 games. We'd love to give him the ball 300 times. But if we need someone to step in, the level of play is going to still be good enough that we can win.
2 things. It's also just a change of pace, right? Zach Moss gave you a change of pace when he was out there versus Jonathan Taylor, and that was really good with what you were able to do, right? I think that that's something that you're not asking them to do the same things. I think that was very valuable for Shane to be able to just keep defenses like back in their heels a little bit, right? Where you've got something different that you're able to kind of plug in there when JT's taking a breather, different situations. Like, this is ideal for Goody or for Sermon, whatever it is. If your philosophy is throw to score, run to win, you've got to be able to do that with more than just AR and JT.
Well, and also you might need a third down back.
Correct.
Right? Where you need someone to come in and, hey, we're going to give JT a breather, but we need the pass protection to be on point.
Anything on Leonard Fournette? I heard he came in for a cup of coffee and a visit recently.
Is
the big fella coming in here? Or what?
We signed David Long Jr., cornerback, from that group that was reported. So nothing on that currently.
Currently, right now.
All right, so my guy, my important role player, same thing, backup on offense. It's Blake Freeland and Matt Gonzalez as the backup tackles here. The Colts needed Blake Freeland to start 7 games at right tackle and 2 games at left tackle last year. And offensive line is a weak link system. We saw teams go at Blake Freeland last year, and he had some tough assignments. The Rams, when he was in that game, they were lining Aaron Donald up over him because they're like, well, we got to go with the rookie. Let's see what he can do. You had Myles Garrett lining up over him, T.J. Watt, Cameron Jordan. Like, he got thrown into the fire last year. Can he be your swing tackle again? Does Matt Gonzalez eat into that? Does Matt Gonzalez compete there? But if you need someone to come in at tackle, that is a spot where teams are going to just go right at you. So can either of those guys hold up and play good football if something happens to Bernard Ryman or Braden Smith. Those two guys I'm looking at because, I mean, you hope, obviously, you get 34 starts out of your starting tackles, Smith and Ryman, because they're really good players. But if they have to miss a game or two and you got a critical opponent coming up, big game, can those guys play winning football and keep the level of your offensive line where it needs to be? And by the way, like, Blake Freeland had some moments last year. He had some good games. You turn on the Jags game last year, he actually had a pretty good game at right tackle.
Good.
But they're, if they need to step in, are they going to be at the level that they need to be at? I think that offensive line room is so good for young guys. Like I was talking to Matt Gonzalez or Tanner Bortolini about this in the preseason, that the vets in that room set such a high standard, and then they help the young guys meet it. Tony Sperano does a great job with those guys. There's talent in there. There's absolutely talent in there, but I'm going to be looking at those guys if they need to come in as really important role players.
I love the role player, and you guys got me thinking. Larra, you started it with this, and you followed it up with that. Linebackers. I'm just saying linebackers. You go from Zaire Franklin, you go from E.J. Speed, and if there's a game or two that's missed right there, does this defense, the way that it's set up by Gus Bradley, still indicate that there will be success for somebody filling in as far as the tackling machine Zaire Franklin? You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at those guys in the back end. Knock on wood, wherever it is, stay on the field, both of you, but that's what I'm saying. I know Zaire's an all-pro, he's, top 100 in the league and everything, but hopefully, knock on wood, everybody stays whole, and those backup guys, when they do get in there, have that same sort of energy and are all over the place defensively.
I mean, this is where I'm looking for J.C. Carlisle. I mean, that's why I was looking at you. Like, that's your Mizzou guy, right? Like, I have had my eyes on him, like, since they came in for rookie minicamp. I think that he is a guy who's really interesting, within that group or in certain situations where, he steps in. Again, like, Zaire is like the Iron Man. Like, I don't want to jinx him at all, but, like, that man's a warrior.
The fact that he almost played in Carolina last year in Week 9, it crushed him to not play. But he came really close.
He did.
To playing in that game when he was real banged up.
I seriously think that if you didn't have the Germany game after that, knowing the travel and the toll that's kind of involved in that, like, I think it may have been a different situation. It was also, I think you went into it knowing it was a very winnable game, like, with the people that you had, and they were equipped. Like, if he needed to play, he would have.
But he still came close.
He still came really close.
Hey, time for a game show. I like playing games, and I did want to host
where you got
a game
your start,
show
right?
before my career is done. I want to do a little what-if game with you. Let's go to the what-if game. You ready for this? I'm going to start with you. The Colts will win the AFC South if
two things happen. One, Anthony Richardson plays all 17 games.
Okay.
And two, the Colts have I'm going to talk about it again, the Colts are top 10 in pressure rate.
Pressure rate is your big baby.
That's my big baby this year.
Yeah, I like that.
If the Colts consistently get pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and Anthony Richardson plays all 17 games, this team's going to have a real shot to win the AFC South.
In the first 5 minutes of this podcast, week in and week out, I want pressure rate from the previous week.
Sure.
Can we just lay that out there? It's like a little appetizer, a little buffet before we start.
Maybe get a little stinger in there, little queen.
Yeah, right.
Coming in, yeah.
Anything. No, I want the pressure rate stats each week if we can get them. What do you think, L.O.? What do you think? Same question to you. The Colts will win the AFC South if?
You win 11 games.
11, okay. However you do it.
A lot of people think the Texans are going to win 12 or more. But so let's talk about the Texans.
You also have, look at the schedule. You have to, I understand when you look at what they did last year, you have a tougher schedule in 2024.
Houston's playing a first-place schedule, which means, by the way, so the biggest difference there is, and look, anything can happen in a season. It's hard to project this out. But Houston gets Dallas in the NFC East, and the Colts get the Giants. So, and look, the Giants have some talent. They're good team, good coach in Brian Daboll. There are people picking the Giants to have the number 1 overall pick. No one's picking the Cowboys to have the number 1 overall pick next year.
Some people are picking those Cowboys for the Super Bowl this year. That's how talented they are. The Colts win the AFC South if...
what are you thinking?
Boy, I'm thinking, I like what you said with the 11, but I think they, to win the AFC South, I think it's going to take... I think it'll take 12. I just got a feeling. I think it'll take 12. We're not even talking about the Jaguars and the success that Trevor Lawrence's career could have, or does he take a nosedive for 1 year?
You know who's going to sneakily be a lot better this year is the Titans.
Titans will be good.
Titans added a lot of talent this offseason.
Those quarterback starts for Levis, man.
Big coaching change there.
Yeah.
You know, the big culture change. You're right. That's going to be a tough one. I don't care where they're playing, when we're playing, what the records are. Throw them out because the Tennessee Titans come here, we go down there. It's going to be,
they're going to be better than people think.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people are just writing them off as they're going to finish last in the South and I'll go 6-11, 5-12. Like, it's not just bringing in Brian Callahan, it's bringing in Bill Callahan.
No Derrick
for that
Henry.
offensive line that now has 2 first-round picks on it, in Skaronski and Latham.
Right.
And they got Calvin Ridley now.
Does anybody else just immediately go to the oh my God, Tommy Boy, like Tommy Callahan? I don't know, like I just kind of went that way.
Oh, of course, one of
the best quotable movies that's out there. Sorry, we've totally taken this off.
No, you're not. We're still playing my game show. Anthony Richardson will have an encouraging year 2. Interesting word, encouraging year 2. If and I'm just going to say this: you can't say play 17 games.
Yep.
Oh, I would say
That's it.
I
Put him on.
No, I was going to say 10 plus. I'm
Just
saying
add
just starts
water
10
type
plus.
thing.
10 plus.
If he gets enough starts, we're going to see what he's made.
Yeah.
I think you see that development that we talked about in the 3rd and 4th quarters of the season. That you see as the season goes on, when you get to November and December, that it's like you have something here in the quarterback coach pairing of Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen. When you get to the end of this year and you're like, we got it. Mm-hmm. That and you'll know it when you see it. And I think you would feel that if the last 8 games of the year you start to see the ascent really take off for Anthony Richardson.
I love it. Let's go. How about this one? Last one. Laiatu Latu will win Defensive Rookie of the Year. We kind of covered this earlier.
Yeah.
But is it going to take double digits and they're going to give him the chip or what?
Well, so Will Anderson Jr. won it last year with 7.5 sacks.
Didn't have the most sacks.
Didn't have the most sacks.
He had the 4th most sacks.
But
among
he
rookies.
was
a ton of TFLs. Yes.
Yep. And his pressure rate was really high.
That's it.
So, and you, again, as another guy, you turn on the tape and you're like, yep, that's the defensive rookie.
But he's hurt right now.
Interesting.
Will Anderson Jr.
So couple, I mean, just,
Houston has some injury things. They might have a problem.
Get it?
That's a good one.
2 guys to keep an eye on this week for the Colts would be Matt Gay, who's dealing with a groin injury per Shane Steichen. The Colts signed Spencer Schrader to their practice squad.
Yep.
And then Josh Downs. What is he going to look like when we get that first injury report on Wednesday?
I would love for Josh to play, and I was thinking about this morning. I could see a situation much like the New England game last year, in which he goes, I can give you 10 to 15. You know?
Hey, if he gives you what he gave you against New England with that diving catch, great. Sign me up.
That's my thing, is that we saw that last year in his ability to do that. And obviously, you want to protect his long-term health throughout the season, that durability that's there, but the toughness that is in a Josh Downs. I can totally see this being something where if he's just working his way back in a little bit, maybe he's limited in practice, there is a situation in which there is a specific Josh Downs package at your disposal.
And by the way, the Colts wide receiver depth is way better right now than it was when the Colts got on that plane to Germany with, who knows how many plays Josh Downs is going to play.
Night and day. Okay, we're wrapping up here, guys. I want to bring up something we have not talked about. We're out looking sort of for this 2024 season as a whole right there. But I want to ask you both, before we say goodbye, the importance of the maturation of Shane Steichen. And the reason I'm saying this is I do feel, Larra, watching the greats go through here, like the Jim Caldwells and, of course, the Tony Dungys and stuff, when men get behind their leader and they are all dialed in on the same page and says, come out here and do this. Trust me, you'll have success. And I think we're getting that with Shane. And to see the maturation of his experience as that head coach, whether it's throwing a challenge flag or whether it's the way he's calling an offense, I can't wait for this, because that year 1 to year 2 jump in anything in professional sports is a big one.
And he's just so direct. Like, the expectations are very clear with, how he operates, what the expectations are, what he feels this team is capable of, the position he's going to put them in. To be in a position to win week in and week out. I think all of that has been reinforced. And I asked Pitt about this a while back. And I was like, what's the difference? And he's like, Shane hasn't changed. I mean, Shane's so even, you guys, right? Like so steady, like through everything he went through as a rookie head coach, everything kind of was throwing and came his way. But like, he was the same person every single day. Like it was like, all right, this is who do I have to work with? This is how we're going to make it work. This is what we're going to do this week. So I think guys really respect that about Shane, but it goes back to that whole chemistry thing. Like they just, and this is something that Pitt said, he knows all of us even better. Like, he knew us then, but now he really knows us. And you've had all of this time to just spend around each other. And like, that is something that really great teams have.
I mean, you think about last year where you're putting a staff together, you're, ironing out your pillars and your expectations for the team. You're setting a tone from the top. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, like he probably didn't sleep at all last year, right? He's sleeping on the his couch in his office, and now everyone who's back, which by the way is most of the team, as we talked about, understands exactly what he's all about. And you buy into it last year because he's your coach, he's your leader. You buy into him. Now you buy into it not just because he's your coach and your leader, but because you believe that he is putting you in the best positions to succeed. And I love talking to defensive guys about Shane because he's the offensive guru. He's the guy who's calling the plays. But I asked EJ Speed about Steichen, like, hey, what does he do that empowers you as players? And he told me, quote, he's very confident in what he asks of us. He's very confident in the players that he's got. And I think 90% of the game is going on the field to have confidence. So if you've got a confident coach, someone has confidence in you, it means a lot. Yeah. And like for players, that's everything. If your coach is direct and demanding, but confident that you can do it, that matters so much for this team. And everyone knows exactly the expectations. Something Ryan Kelly brought up to me is that there's no gray area. You know what it is, but also that everyone, all these coaches from Shane on down, believe you can do it. Mm-hmm. And that is so empowering for these guys to go out there. Like, you always wonder sometimes, like, why do teams that have all this talent, perceived talent, fall short? And why do teams that maybe don't have as much perceived talent succeed?
Leadership.
Yeah. That's where it starts. And the Colts have a really, really damn good leader.
Both of you, well said. Both of you, well said. Let me get this read out of the way here really quick because we are going to talk some local football in a minute. I know you're fired up about that, LO. Coming up on the Colts Audio Network this week, we've got Inside Football with Rick Venturi. On Wednesday, another episode of the official Colts podcast, like we said, is Thursday, previewing that Texans game. Matt Taylor, Bill Brooks, Casey Valier. 2-minute drill on Friday, and all the last-minute news that you need is on Colts.com. You hear from these two, at Larra Overton, at JJ Stankevitz on Twitter X. And after Sunday's game, JJ and Bill Brooks will break down week one on Instant Reaction. Rate, review, and subscribe to us here on the Colts Audio Network. Before we say goodbye, congratulations to you and your Hoosiers and your man Kurt Segnetti getting a 1-0 start for IU football.
My guy Jeff Brom in the University of Louisville as well, off to a 1-0 start. Shut out Austin P in week one. They got a big one against Jacksonville State, so go Cards.
Go Cards, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I know. Well, we love you and Matt Taylor.
I mean, Larra's all on the Mizzou bandwagon now.
Now the Mizzou bandwagon?
Yeah, we got J.C. Carlisle showing up down there in his Colts hoodie. And we got the student section blasting Mr. Brightside. Like what else could you want?
I don't know. Now I have to go. I have to find a trip to Columbia, Missouri.
Playoff game.
Where did that start? Because Michigan football does that at the Big House.
I mean, everyone does it.
But who's the first? To play.
Well, it wasn't Mizzou.
To play Brightside.
They do it well though.
Of the fourth
Mizzou is
quarter.
the first homecoming though. That's what we got.
They do it well.
We invented homecoming. Yeah.
That's for another show. What Mizzou did?
Yeah.
Nah. No. And by the way, Chase Daniel, friend of the show, will he be back?
Friend of the pod, yeah. We'll try to get him back on. He was great.
Can I sing Mr. Brightside at a Mizzou game with Chase Daniel?
Okay, that's how we get you on the bandwagon.
I don't know.
All right, well, I'll start a group text with you and Chase.
Hey, do you want to try it start of the fourth over here on Sunday at Lucas Oil? Let's go down the field now. Larra Overton singing.
Shout out to Willie Matus, who always plays Mr. Brightside pregame for me, actually, at the stadium. That's my walkout song there.
Whenever I'm at the gym, by the way, and I'll hear songs playing, and I'm just like, that's the song that we played before kickoffs, or oh, that's the song that we play at this break. I have it all down in my head.
That's great.
That's great. Hey, it's coming up. 1 o'clock kickoff against the Texans is on Sunday. You'll hear JJ over the loud, booming voice of God, microphone and speakers that is there. Great job. Keep it up. Hello. You're going to be on the sidelines doing your gig. We're going to see a lot of you before the game, leading up to Sunday, and obviously after the game as well. Colts.com has the latest information. I want to thank you, Connor, for doing this. Folks, we're going to wrap this up. Start this season out 1-0. It's important. Get that home victory. And, of course, the AFC South. Is so huge getting that first one underneath your belt because they kind of count as two, in my opinion, always have. But anyway, to the Houston Texans players, if you're coming here and do have some time to look around the city, there's a canal downtown that we have, and you can rent some bikes and God, we have Newfield Gardens, which is part of the Indianapolis Museum of Arts. It's so fun. There's a walking tour down in the midsection of Meridian that you can do. Look at some old houses. There's so many fun things to do here. Why don't you come in a day early, and maybe we'll see you over at Top Golf or something. For Larra, Overton, and JJ.
Top Golf in Houston.
Whatever. I'm just saying there's a whole hell of a lot of fun things to do here in Indianapolis, Houston, and we can't wait to see you down here in about 4 days, maybe come a day early, and we'll personally give you a tour around the city. And by the way, we'll be talking to you after kickoff on Sunday as well. I'm Jeffrey Gorman, JJ Stankevitz, Larra Overton, the official Colts podcast. Again on Thursday, you're going to see the preview, and we will talk to you next week.